Welcome everybody. Thanks very much for picking workshop number 1. This is going to be the best of the 4 without question of a doubt. So you're very welcome and delighted that you're here with us. My name's Neil McIntosh and I'm the project manager of a life preparatory project called Life eNatura 2000.edu. Short and snappy name, or as we have in the team dubbed it, Life Edu. It's for you. So part of the purpose of the conference is about looking at the competencies and the capacities that are going to be required in the coming decade to help us implement the 2030 biodiversity strategy. And there were some really interesting presentations and discussions and videos this morning. So I hope you all enjoyed that. And we'll have, within the scope of this workshop, an opportunity to reflect in a little bit more detail on some of those discussions. Within EUROPARC, some of you may be more familiar with the EUROPARC workshops than others. We always want people to interact, to share their stories, to ask questions, not only of us, but of each other. You are each other's resource, you are each other's network. And so we welcome your interaction, and please use the chat facility in Zoom, which I think you all are acquainted with now. If you have any specific questions, my colleague Federico will monitor the chat. And if there are any questions or any interventions at all, please don't hesitate to put a question in the chat, or alternatively, raise your hand. You might be familiar with the little blue hand symbol. So you can always draw our attention to you if you have something that you want to say. So we have 3 speakers within this workshop. And today we're going to start with our colleagues in Samantra, Anne Magnus and Rupam Amrit, who's in the group as well. We're delighted that they have been able to join us, especially because this morning you may have noticed the launch of the eNatura 2000 app. So Anne and Rupam are going to tell us a little bit more about that and explain some of the functionality of the app. So without further ado, Anne, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so thank you for having us today in this workshop. So my name is Anne Magnus. I'm the managing partner of Samantra. Samantra is a digital agency based in Brussels, and we provide digital solutions for European associations and NGOs, and also for European projects. So we were selected by the consortium led by EUROPARC to design and develop the eNatura 2000 app that you can download as of today. So I will introduce you the benefits of this app for you as a land manager or of eNatura zone or protected area, and how to download it. So we have prepared just a few slides that you can explore with me. So what is the eNatura 2000 app about? So whether you are looking for a peer in your professional community to resolve some specific issue on the management of the Natura 2000 app, or if you want to improve your skills in your daily practice, or if you want to learn and increase your network, this is the app. This is the place, and you should download the app, because you can find peers that can help you in one way or another. They can share with you tips, and they are really here to help you in this network. So the 3 main functionality of this app is first, like Tinder, but for this very specific professional community to browse the different profiles of your peers, and you can swipe them right if you're interested to enter in contact with them to help you solve some issues in your daily management, or to get some tips. So it's really like LinkedIn, like Tinder, but really for the eNatura 2000 professional community. The second benefit of the app is that you can connect with your peers directly. So you have two ways to get in touch with them, either via the in-app chat or via the professional email if there is a mutual match. And even beyond the matchmaking opportunity of this mobile application, it goes even further, meaning this app is really a learning resource. We call it a mini Wikipedia somehow, which will provide you a lot of knowledge resources for your daily professional practice. So this is really the one-stop shop if you want to know anything about Natura 2000 and land management. So get it and download it. So very concretely, once you have downloaded the app, and I will explain you how a bit later, we invite you to create your own profile. It just takes 1 minute. And the more you fill it up, the better it will help the algorithm to do matchmaking with your peers. You can easily then swipe your peers according to different filters, for instance, country, different geographical zones, and specific interests. So there are different ways then to get in touch with your peers. So that's very simple. First, to create the profile, it's really like social media. And then you can swipe right or left the entire community, either via different filters or via a Discover tab. So even beyond this, as I mentioned, you have also great content to explore, and there will be always fresh content that will be notified to you. So top news, videos, quiz, mini poll, featured content, different kind of documents, and this in a very personalized way. So according to your specific interest, the app will push you different kind of topics, and there are a variety of topics, but mainly policy and practicalities, biodiversity, management, and people and organizations. So you have many topics to browse through and really get a personalized experience of the content. That's different screenshot of the app where you can see indeed the different kind of topics, biodiversity, for instance, if you're into this. Also, it's the entry door to all the communication material. And Neil, you mentioned also the YouTube channel and all the new communication training, and that is provided by EUROPARC and their partners. So how to install the app? Of course, a mobile app is for mobile, so you need a smartphone first. And whether you have an Android phone or Apple phone, there is a slight difference. So if you have an Android, to download the app, you need to go on the Google Play Store. And there you type in the Play Store eNatura 2000, and there you will find the eNatura 2000 app. And if you have an iPhone, then you go on the App Store of your smartphone, and same way you enter eNatura 2000 in the search bar, and there you will find the app with this blue-green icon. Once it's downloaded, then you open it, and there will be a little sign up and logging process, which is important to protect the quality of the community. So it's an exclusive community we wish you to belong to, and that's why we invite you to sign up. Few questions, then you will get approval from the project team, and you will get an email in your inbox with your credentials, meaning the login and the password. once you have this login and passwords, you can enter and explore the entire community of your peers and the content related. So we invite you to download the app right now. We are happy to listen to your feedback, and I wanted to share with you a little video to see the overall user experience and the different features you can explore in this app. Let me just share the little video with you. So here it is. In the summary, the eNatura 2000 app is a mini Tinder, a mini LinkedIn, a mini WhatsApp, a mini Wikipedia, all in one. And we hope you will enjoy and to make a better impact among the community and the great network of Natura 2000. Thank you very much for this great collaboration, for all the team of EUROPARC and their partners. It was really a pleasure, and I give you back the floor. Thank you.
Excellent, Anne. Thank you very much. I'll do the deaf waving, clapping. It was very good, very good. Safe to say we're delighted with the app. Anne and her colleague Rupam very quickly got a very clear idea of the type of thing, as inarticulate as we were in being able to describe the type of thing we were aiming towards. And Anne and Rupam and the colleagues at Samantra very quickly identified a tool which they developed in collaboration with us, obviously, but there was an instant recognition of the potential value of this app. And who knew when this, I can't remember when the technical meeting was it November last year? I want to say it was November the year before because it seems so long ago, but
no, it was rather fast.
It was just November last year, and who knew then what we know now in terms of the COVID realities of 2020. So the tool and the app has come to fruition. We've been delighted to be able to launch it at this conference today. Like every app, it will be as useful as the users feel it to be. So if you want to help contribute to that community, that digital community, it really is important if you would go away and tell your colleagues, and the more people that get using the app, the more life there will be within the app. We can dream of a eNatura Facebook community, but it really is intended to serve protected area managers, not just Natura 2000 managers, protected area managers, and enable them to network and connect. So, does anybody have any questions for Anne or Rupam, her colleague?
I think there was a a practical question on the registration. So how to log in the app, and yeah, maybe probably clarifying the step between registering and getting the confirmation.
Okay, so once you have downloaded the app, you will open the app and have a sign-up screen first, where you need to enter your first name, last name, working email, name, organization, and whether you are Natura 2000 or protected area manager. And then the team behind will approve first your right to access the app. Once it's approved, so which is extremely fast. I see Daniel that is clicking a lot today. You will get an email in your email box with the login, which is often your email address you signed up with, and the password. And then these two credentials you can use to log in, and then you enter the app, like you would do for Facebook or LinkedIn or any serious social media.
Excellent, thanks, Anne. Yes, the time gap between your request to become a registered app user, it's very quick. Or as quick as Daniel's fingers can allow today, because I was saying to Anne just before everybody joined, even though the sort of launch was about 10 o'clock this morning, we already had, just at the start of lunchtime, 198 registered users. So that's super, you're doing a fantastic job. But please go and tell your friends as well. Any other questions, Federico, that you saw, or?
Daniel, I mean, I think questions are more related to issues. So Daniel, if you want to, I think there's an opportunity also to refine for us the system as we
absolutely
investigate. So maybe Daniel, if you want to.
Yeah. Don't be shy, Daniel.
Sure, I tried immediately, and when I was trying to register, I just couldn't see the whole screen. So I'm not sure that I managed to put my right email in, because I haven't received any mail on my confirmation on the app. But it was no problem downloading it. But so do you have like who do you talk to if it doesn't work correctly? Like, is there any administration emails you can send somewhere? Or
there are, but I think you would only get access to them if you were a registered user, Anne. Is that correct?
So first, I would say check by any chance your spam box as a routine. Usually, I think there shouldn't be any problem. But in any case, we are going to take your name. I saw your name, and we are going to check that this afternoon. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I think there was another
asking
colleague
the same.
Yeah. Federico, can you pass that name to Anne, please?
Yep.
Good to know these problems, really valuable feedback, because the quicker we can identify them, the quicker we can resolve them. There will be 2 people in ELO, our partners, one of our partners in the Life Edu project, and Esther and Misha in EUROPARC, who will be sort of checking emails to enable the access to the app. But of course, because Esther and Misha are flat out with the conference today and tomorrow, it's probably going to be more ELO that are doing that function for us. So, but super, excellent. So what we'll do, we are recording this as well. So the recording doesn't only record the visual presentation, it records the chat as well. So we can, after the workshop has concluded, we'll be able to download the chat so we can filter that and see if any particular individuals have any particular issues. And I'm sure if we shared those with you, Anne and Rupam, we can attend to them. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Anne. Bravo.
Get the app.
Get the app. Get the app.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm still here.
Thank you, Rupam. Thank you. I know Anne has to leave quite shortly, but we're pleased that Rupam will be able to stay for the rest of the workshop, which I should say the workshops will finish at about 4:30 this afternoon. So, and talking about connections, we were able, through the Life Edu project and the good experience we had had in working with Samantra, to be able to put Samantra in touch with one of our project participants, Marie Mickle. And Marie has, myself and Marie established contact, I think 2 years ago now. Seems like a lifetime ago. And the project that Marie's involved with, and the project that I'm leading in EUROPARC Life Edu, there was a complete resonance. We're taking different approaches, but there's a complete synergy between the projects. So we've been able to elaborate that connectivity over the course of the last 2 years. And Marie has been a fantastic contributor, not only to the Life Edu project, but also to EUROPARC conferences in the past. So if you were in Latvia last year, you may recognize Marie if you were at the workshop that I was leading in Jurmala. So Marie, I wanted to invite Marie because Marie would be able to give a participant's perspective of the project. So without further ado, Marie, over to you.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen like I did before, hopefully. Is that working fine?
It's coming. Yep.
Okay, great. So, hello everyone. Neil has asked me to share my experience of the Competent Inclusive Communications course that was of the Life Edu project. So that's what I'm going to do, sharing my experience of the course and how it applies to my work. Of course, that's my example, that I'm sure all the other participants have found maybe other elements of the course useful. So I've sort of planned a little presentation to highlight some of the key things that I learned, but there's of course many other things that were covered in the course and that I can't say it all in 10 minutes. So there we go. So I work, or I've been contracted, if I'm able to change slides. Yes, contracted by the National Association for Areas of Outstanding Natural Beauty. In short, it's AONBs, and they're sort of the equivalent of what you would call regional parks across Europe in the United Kingdom. They exist in the UK along the national parks. And there you can see they're spread all across the country. There's some very big ones, some very small ones, and they have all sorts of different landscapes. And my job for the National Association is to help, or to help these AONB teams to get together to collaborate at a national level. So we talk about the AONB network, which I have found over the 2 years I've been working with them is not only a network of organization, but also a network of people, just like EUROPARC has members from all around the country, but we have people within those member organizations. So the network of AONB teams, I like to present it that way. It's very different shapes and sizes. There's teams of 3 people and teams of 20. There's very different governance, different local priorities, different landscapes they have to care for, and maybe different challenges. Of course, they all have in common the same general purpose, and they face the same big challenges that we all face at the European level, but their local realities are different, and get them to collaborate, it's quite complex. We can't just expect to bring people together in a room and tell them, okay, collaboration is good, just do it. It doesn't happen like that. Instead, you need to convince them that it's good. You need to motivate them to collaborate. So collaboration, for me, is a mindset, and it's an attitude. It requires, like I say, people to believe in it and to be sort of willing to change their normal behaviors. The normal habit might be to think locally about their protected area and their local priority, and sort of not see what's happening elsewhere and how there may be synergies or benefits to working together. So it's a change in behavior to going from, oh, I'm working on my own locally, to what if there was more outside that could help me do that here and elsewhere. And of course, it also takes the right tools and the right kind of platforms to collaborate. Can't expect people to join up without having any means to do so. So the app that it's just been presented is a great tool to make that happen, for example, but there's other ways that we're trying in the UK to implement as well. So based on what I've just been saying, you can see that communications is an essential aspect of the project I'm working on, because it's about convincing people and motivating them and seeing what triggers them to act. And so it's about communicating to them, really. So I've picked a few things from what I learned from the course. Like I said at the start, it's not everything, because the content covered was immense over the few months that we were in the course. But what I learned is that, first of all, communications is not just making a nice video or a nice Facebook post and hoping it gets the message across. You have to have a clear message and a clear goal when you do communications, and it needs to be part of a thought through plan, because a standalone communication activity on its own will not reap many benefits. You have to have this clear objective in mind. So that has helped me in my work, thinking, well, if I'm going to people that collaboration is important, it's not enough that I do a nice infographics or something like that. It needs to be part of a wider strategy around the collaborative project that I'm running. The next thing I learned is that you need to truly know your audience. So it's not enough to know that they work on beats and to vaguely know their reality. Instead, I need to know what they believe in, what they think, and what triggers them to act, like I said. So when I realized that from the course, I decided to do a nationwide consultation survey to AONB staff about collaboration and the expectations and their sort of the constraints they're facing, why they're not collaborating and things like that. And the survey has generated so many useful insights that have helped me shape the project a little bit differently. So that's yet another example of how the course has helped me. Another thing that I learned from the course is that communications can be very powerful if they're framed appropriately. So if you just say collaboration, it's just a word and it doesn't have a lot of value. If you say inclusive and effective collaboration, you start giving it a frame, an idea with it, and it's already more engaging. And then if you talk about creating cities, or you could think of many other words to use, you can give it a different vibe. I don't know how to describe it. Can really set the mood and engage with people by the words you use, by how you use them, and by the channels you choose to communicate as well. Then I think importantly, this course was a fantastic human experience. I got really inspired by the other participants, and I could see that they were inspired themselves by the course and by other people on the course. And it really felt like we were being part of something quite meaningful. Like we were really learning to be able to make a difference in the future when it comes to protected area management. And then a hugely important aspect of the course was this blended learning approach. So there were videos, there was live webinars, there were recorded webinars if you couldn't attend, there were slide sets, there were small exercises to do on your own, group assignments, probably many other things I'm forgetting, but this multi tool approach has been fantastic in terms of learning. And for me, as I'm thinking of developing training for A&B staff in the future, this has also been a great learning experience, because I can reuse some of these kind of learning techniques that I learned. So that's what I learned from the course and how it applies to my work. Besides communications, there's another important aspect of my work which I think is relevant to capacity building. So I'd like to use a few more minutes to mention it. We've used psychometric profiling in a model called EUROPARC to develop collaboration. And the idea behind using EUROPARC is that individual development will support the change that we want to see in terms of collaboration, so the culture change. So this basic principles of this EUROPARC is that you get to know yourself in order to value working with others better, because you're seeing how people work differently from you, how getting together might produce better outcomes. Yeah, so we've used this tool. We've taken, for example, recently, last year, we've taken 40 people through coaching using this EUROPARC, and it's been a very successful experience because we've really seen them being better able to work together. And we've chosen EUROPARC because it's non-judgmental. It doesn't say strengths and weaknesses, rather it says you have qualities that you use in certain ways. It's also research-based. There's a PhD behind it, someone very highly qualified. And then the tool is also interesting because it provides common language for people to share around their preferred ways of working. So that's what makes it very effective. And so now I'm starting qualification to become a practitioner for EUROPARC. So that means I'll be able to coach people in the future, as has been done by a colleague of mine until now. So overall, sort of combining the experience of the course and this EUROPARC qualification, my aspiration for the future is to enhance these collaborative behaviors within and between protected areas at the European level, if I get the chance, to really get protected area staff and their stakeholders to work together towards a common goal, to share learning and to move forward in the same direction. And I think that's why the team at EUROPARC are doing such an important job. They're providing these opportunities, the course that I did, the app that was presented today, and also the annual conference. It's all different ways of putting this into practice, and I think they're really hitting the mark and making this a reality. So I would like to thank EUROPARC. And yeah, that's all I had to say.
Thank you very much. Yay! That was very kind of you, very kind comments, but also we've been delighted to work and collaborate with Marie as well, and other colleagues in the AOMBs. I think the two, as I said before, the Life Edu project, which is looking at blended learning, competence-based training for capacity building, practical management capacity building, and then the psychometric behavior change coaching almost approach within the AOMB network. It's two sides of one coin. So I think they're entirely complementary, and we've been delighted to forge this sort of collaboration between the two initiatives, and we'd be very interested to see how that can continue to develop in the future. And I was hearing there that Marie is keen to become a trainee trainer or a trainer. So we are currently exploring a new project, and that would very much be one of the pillars, if you like, in the new project. And I can see Marta there looking on. We're going to be delighted to work again with Fungobi. Marta's the director of Fungobi. So we are on the cusp. If I can survive tonight, the project will be submitted tomorrow. Yay! It's been an absolute mammoth task, but Fungobi have been brilliant as ever. Anyway, enough about all that. that's for 2 o'clock tomorrow morning when I wake up again. Excellent, Marie. Do any of you have any particular questions, or have any of you perhaps, maybe this is a neater way to go into that discussion, had experience of EUROPARC or would like to find out more about EUROPARC? No reaction. Don't worry, Marie. They're all just shy. I can see Timea there. Timea is another participant on our Life Edu course. We've been lucky in our group. Marta and Fungobi had a group of 25, I think, participants working in Spanish for people from throughout Spain. EUROPARC had a group of 23 participants from 19 countries around Europe. And it was a fantastic opportunity to bring that range of backgrounds, experiences, people. We had from 23, I think, being the youngest participant to, I shouldn't say, but in the region of 60, being one of the other participants. And it's been a real sort of practical networking experience and a forum to exchange ideas. And we've been delighted to be able to do that. And I think the powerful thing for me, in terms of me being the project manager of that project, not only the opportunity to meet such wonderful people from different backgrounds, different countries, different organizations, which is what I love anyway, because that's why I work for EUROPARC. But to be able to do that at a time when the coronavirus really took off, our group had its first online sort of induction meeting, I guess, an introductory meeting. So to bring all the people together, pursuing that blended learning approach as Marie described. And that was on, I think, the 30th of January. And then the world went crazy. So we have not been able to fulfill one element of our planned course. If ever there was a blessing, a silver cloud, a silver lining on a dark cloud, this project has been it in the last 6 months, providing that platform to enable peers to network with their peers and just have that human contact that Marie was describing as well, albeit remotely, albeit digitally. But the cohesiveness that was forged within the group was quite something to behold. And I know Daniel's in the audience as well. Daniel is from the Kullaberg Nature Reserve in Sweden. And that's the one piece of the missing jigsaw. And Timea and Marie and the rest of the participants in the group are absolutely dying to get to go to Kullaberg Nature Reserve, which would be the face-to-face element of our blended learning. But unfortunately, circumstances are against us. So we are keeping everything crossed potentially for something in the spring of next year. But let's see. Okay. If anybody has any questions, I can see several chats fed. I don't know if... oh, Marta, very good.
Marta, you want to add anything on this?
Okay, thank you very much. As I mentioned in the chat, you know, this is siesta time now, and this is our lunch time, more or less, at home. No, I'm just joking. We don't get any siesta anymore. But yeah, I think it was very important what Marie mentioned about the two things. That communication is also an attitude. So this kind of non-material and tangible values are very important as a starting point to start doing communication. So I was glad to hear about that. And also, of course, the importance of having clear goals when we start doing communication, because I think during many years, of course, many nice things have been done by public administrations or protected areas, nice posters, nice notebooks for students, for people, for young people, but without any planning. So I think it's very important to, and this is something that usually managers of protected areas are familiar with. So the planning of any action. So in communication, it's also important to have these goals very clear and to organize the strategy in a coherent and nice way. So I just wanted to underline these two comments from Marie's presentation.
Very good. Thank you, Marta. And I couldn't agree more. I think that certainly within the networking community, organizations that are used to networking, we know the power and the purpose of communication, effective communication, because that is a tool for effective management. But sometimes a lot of the stakeholding organizations that we engage with, whether they be decision makers, whether they work at national level or European level, I'm afraid to say, sometimes just take it for granted. Well, you're all Natura 2000 managers, you know, you should be able to communicate. You need to know how to work with a farmer. So, you know, you're in daily contact with them. So yeah, you know, they don't realize necessarily that that is also a learned skill. It's not something which comes necessarily. To some people it is instinctive, but not necessarily to people. Especially perhaps, without wanting to make any stereotypical suggestions, but especially perhaps for people from a scientific background or an ecological background or a very specialist background, they may not necessarily be gifted communicators or feel particularly confident in engaging a range of stakeholders. But their job, their function is absolutely to do that. If you're in a national park, if you're in a nature reserve, if you're in a protected area, a Natura 2000 site, you are at some point going to have to work with other colleagues within your organization in different departments or different stakeholders who perhaps live in or around that protected area. And the effectiveness of communicating and being able to engage, I think is the word, those stakeholders, so that you might not necessarily agree 100% all of the time, but at least you're in a position where you have a dialogue and you're able to develop a mutual understanding of each other's standpoints. So, sharp, very good. Any other comments at this stage, or should we move on? I'm going to introduce Federico. I'm sure many of you already know Federico, my colleague in EUROPARC. And Federico's going to tell us about another form of networking, a networking of networks. So, Federico, just tell us about it.
I can give you a few words. As we have said now, I think the fact of having networking among people and people are crucial in the processes to achieve better conservation. It's not only the specific competencies of those on the ground, but there's a lot behind, and this goes from policy to practice and the other way around. So there's a lot of work happening at different levels, as you have seen this morning as well. And we as EUROPARC are also actively involved with the European institutions and other partners to make sure the voice and the experience of protected areas can reach the different levels at the European institutions, but also are shared also with other organizations which are working actively for nature conservation, but might not have very clear the role of protected areas and what this means and the complexity of integrated management and so on. So we as EUROPARC are networking and liaising with many other organizations who are networks themselves. And we, for example, are involved in Brussels in what is called the European Habitats Forum, which is a network of 20-25 organizations working European-wide, all focused on different aspects of nature conservation. It goes from wilderness to forestry to marine aspects till most of organization, you know, BirdLife, WWF, and so on, which have also quite different constituency compared to EUROPARC, which is composed of institutions, but some are more have citizens on their constituency. And together we try to make sure we support and help the implementation of the nature directives at European level, at the ground level, and also try to push the European institutions in making improvements in the development and of the policies and ensure integration of policies. So we have been following from close what you might have heard as the fitness check in the previous years, where the nature directives were put under check, really. Are they effective? Are they good for future, ready? And now we have been working a lot to see this new biodiversity strategy that you have heard today, but has been launched earlier this year. And we're pretty happy of this results, but we are now working together for the development of what will be the guidelines for the Commission, for example. The Commission is expected to develop guidelines and criteria on the different targets, what are protected areas, so make sure we don't reinvent the wheel and make sure the experience of protected areas is shared and known. So this is within a network of other organizations, but also in partnership and conjunction with the European Commission, where I have to say, as you have heard today with Humberto Delgado, there's really an interest and willingness to hear what is happening on the ground and from a management perspective. So this is the connection we managed to make between you guys who are really on ground and the European institutions. Yeah, I don't know how far you want me to go, but I think this might give already just a quick overview of what's happening. And then yes, I can. And if you need or if you have questions, happy to integrate.
I can see Daniel has his little blue hand up.
Yeah.
Actually, that was earlier, Neil. I just wanted to welcome you so much.
Oh, sorry.
It's still that I didn't know how to take it away. But yeah, just so you know, we can't wait to see you guys coming.
Excellent. We'll be there. There's a really good Scottish saying, with bells on. In due course, partying all the way to Kullaberg. Thanks, Daniel. I used to go in a previous lifetime to the European Habitats Forum, and I always found it to be a really, really interesting forum where you could exchange information with network organizations who had very different takes on very similar policies and very similar priorities. And it was sometimes quite frustrating to corral the range of opinions. and Federico knows exactly what what that's like. But at the same time, when all the cards did stack up into place, the European Habitats Forum becomes a very powerful instrument to engage in that dialogue, especially because through the European Habitats Forum, they're a regular invitee, for example, to DG Environment. They meet still, I think, twice a year, Federico. And they also have seats at the table on another important expert group, which has representatives from every member state, the coordination group for biodiversity and
nature.
Nature. Forget nature. I've forgotten my name. That's why, because I was up at 2 o'clock. But so it is powerful. But sometimes as well, I mean, there's an interesting comment from Administrador. I don't know who the person is, but welcome, Administrador. About Marie's comment and Marie's presentation, and it's emphasizing that point about the need to build trust between protected area managers and local stakeholders, and the establishment of that mutually trusting relationship can sometimes be a very, very time-consuming and resource-intensive objective, you know, and it's something which you have to keep working at. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't just sort of be achieved and then continue permanently. It needs continuous investment in energy and commitment, etc. But then when that trust is achieved, my goodness, you can achieve remarkable things, not only for the nature that you have responsibilities for, but also for the priorities and objectives of the stakeholder. It is possible to work together. And I always remember a very good friend of mine who worked in the Burren in Ireland, Sharon Parr. And Sharon was the biggest advocate for working purposefully with farming communities, because there is a misconception, you know, farmers are the enemy, and that is not the case. They can be your enemy if you position them in that regard, but they can also be a very, very powerful ally, especially when you're talking about farmers who have perhaps had land in a protected area for generations, centuries. They know the land better than some manager who's been parachuted in that, you know, doesn't necessarily have that connection. So, yeah, anyway, an aside. Does anybody have any other comments or questions on the three presentations? Really delighted that we've had this opportunity to look at the different types of networking and communication tools which Life Edu has mobilized, the technological, the networking of networks, but also the networking of people. And that for me is why I love this field of work, you know, that we are able to bring people together, to exchange those experiences and to make magic happen. So, oh, somebody had a technical problem, I think.
That's solved.
Yeah. Hello.
We know
Christian.
who's the
very
administrador.
Nice. Our administrador is Christian Altava from the Balearic Islands. Welcome. So I thought it would be interesting within the scope of this workshop to have a sort of open discussion about some questions, building on the presentations that you've seen this morning, but also thinking about the presentations which are part of this workshop. So I'm going to share my screen Don't worry, we don't need to talk about all of these or answer all of them. There we go. So, but relating the workshop in particular to the theme of the conference, can you all see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I think it would be interesting, oh, I can see a comment. Sorry, let me just look. Yes, that's right. Rupam's just making a comment, Rupam from Sumantra, that the apps are meant for smartphones, so not tablets. Not at this stage, maybe next time. We hope. But yeah, so the first question here, I thought it would be interesting just to ask a fairly blunt question, and there's no right or wrong answer, but how many of you have actually read or you know, heard about the content of the biodiversity strategy? I'm assuming you've all heard about what the strategy is, but have any of you sort of read the content of the strategy and thought about its implications? I'm opening this up for discussion, so don't be shy. Can we have maybe a show of hands? If you go to the gallery view, you can just either do that or there's some little icons as well where you can wave hands and things like that. However you want to do it. It'd be interesting to see. Marta was the first one. Marta's the top of the class. Or share via the chat, it's also good. Okay, but I'm suspecting that perhaps not that many. And it's really, it's understandable. We're all busy people. And who wants to read a policy document, you know, over your summer holidays, which is par for the course with the Commission. They make these big fanfare announcements. Well, this was quite early, so can't discredit them too much in May. So at least you had June to read it before summer holidays. But yeah. And it's funny, I think, because we really should take a more, in my view, a more sort of interactive role in terms of when these big policy documents come out. They are obviously big policy documents. They're from the Commission, intended to be implemented by member states. But the trickle-down effect of these policy documents at some point are going to impact on all of us, all of our work. Maybe not immediately, but certainly in the future. And this document is going to be around for 10 years. So we do, I think, owe ourselves a favour to think about what the implications are, because it can be super important not only to understand the direction of travel within these policy documents, the targets, the priorities, because that information can perhaps open the door to potential funding opportunities and project developments where you think, aha, so if my protected area was to go into a joint working relationship with that protected area, we could potentially go for a life program, all right, a life project proposal, or funding from another source. But basically, awareness about the priorities within not only the biodiversity strategy, but within similar strategic policy documents can be a very worthwhile investment of time. Anybody else?
Yeah, maybe I can add. I think here we're speaking mainly about Natura 2000, but I think the recognition of the role of protected areas in a wider sense, so is at European level, is quite an important achievement per se as well. So seeing that the European institutions are now officially recognizing the role of protected areas to protect for the biodiversity at European level in different forms as an important achievement, is something EUROPARC has been advocating for long. We've been speaking 10 years ago, remember, about having a European policy for protected areas. And now we see this is developing obviously in a different way, but it's great to see that protected areas of different kind of categories are complementing the work that is done on Natura 2000. And I think here the governance, the administration, the organizations that you all represent have a crucial role and will have a crucial role for the next 10 years. So yes, there is a first step result, if you want, and I think the political level is an important step, but then new work is coming.
Very good, Federico, and I think that is an absolutely essential point. It's something which EUROPARC, with the drafting process of this strategy, had lobbied very hard for, to ensure that within the biodiversity strategy there would be more of an open recognition about the value of protected areas and how they can complement and contribute to a more cohesive biodiversity strategy, so that they work in concert with Natura 2000 sites. And don't forget, of course, in many protected areas, Natura 2000 sites are within those protected areas. This is something which EUROPARC and EUROPARC's members have been making the case for many, many years. And this open recognition within the new biodiversity strategy, I think, is something which is very important, and certainly from EUROPARC's perspective, we think holds tremendous opportunity for the coming 10 years in terms of supporting the types of work that we can do. So, okay, any other thoughts, reflections, comments about the biodiversity strategy? Oh, yep, Sarah, yes, please.
A video, but I think one of the perhaps most important impacts of this strategy would be in terms of connectivity. And in this sense, maybe this 30% objective could be achieved, or we should start thinking on how to achieve it by prioritizing and selecting these areas which are key for ensuring a good connectivity, and also other conservation measures necessary also for the management and maintenance of key connectors, and including corridor areas. And yes, I think this is one of the major impacts which is closely related to the management of these areas and their surroundings. And I also expect, if properly developed into sectoral policies, that this 2030 strategy will improve somehow the permeability of the lands in the matrix that surrounds the protected areas.
Very good, Sarah. Very good. Very good points. Well made. Sarah, where do you come from?
I come from Spain. I'm working in the external monitoring team of the LIFE program.
Very good, Sarah. And yes, certainly in terms of that, the connectivity, the need for ecological connectivity and sort of more resilience in within the Natura 2000 network and protected area network, I think is it comes through loud and clear within the biodiversity strategy. So I guess part of the discussion is about how do we make that happen now? We appreciate the intent. So where do we go? How do we, what management actions and competencies are necessary in order to be able to make that, to meet that challenge?
Yes, what can you do from the, as protected areas managers to boost this process of improving connectivity? And on the other hand, I think that when we are talking about the strict protected areas that we are expecting, we are waiting for the guidance from the European Commission on how to select these 10% of strict protection areas. I think we should also start reflecting in terms of climate change. So maybe we should not only think about this paradise of biodiversity, but on those areas that are expected to be more resilient to those changes. And maybe from EUROPARC and other, as protected areas managers, you have a lot to say about this. But I don't know, it's more a question for you than a statement from my part.
Okay, very good. Federico, do you want to offer a view on that?
Yes, I think we, yes, as soon as we go into the details of the strategies, those are for those who are less familiar with the strategy, those are the targets for protected areas. So the strategy might look a big document, but actually if you scroll it, you'll identify some interesting areas, in particular specific targets. And there are 3 for protected areas that are the 30% being protected at European level on land and sea, the management effectiveness for all protected areas, an improvement in management effectiveness, and then the 10% being strictly protected. So on all those, just for clarity, there is a work to be done to clarify what is meant by the different wordings and what is strict protection and what are the criteria to identify those areas. And there is quite a large debate, and we are contributing to it. And you heard some inputs this morning from Umberto on strict protection. So I think there we have been discussing also internally that strict protection shouldn't mean necessarily non-intervention per se, but surely light touch and as much as possible, but is no access zone, but also to make sure the habitats we are speaking about frequently need some sort of management. So it's hard to say leave nature totally untouched, particularly in Europe. But I leave this for the scientists more to have their say, for the managers. And then, yes, the 30%, how we get there. And I think there's an interesting debate also looking at protected areas, integrated landscape management, and how we make sure, I think here is a space for debate here. So how we make sure we are as inclusive as possible, while still keeping the bar high enough to make sure that the criteria are high and the quality, and we ensure effectiveness of management and good results for protection of nature. And we're not just including whatever space into the 30%. So I think there's a need to find the right balance between have a good criteria, but at the same time making sure we include areas that are not just national parks, for example, but also like the examples of regional parks from France you have seen this morning. I think they are doing a lot of different things in an integrated management of our landscape, which are benefiting for biodiversity as we intend.
Very good, Federico. Sorry, Sarah.
No, thank you very much for the clarification. I was thinking about going beyond the protected areas, just to help or to guide or to support administration when trying to establish some governance and funding framework with, especially I'm thinking about private stakeholders in the surrounding of the protected areas, because I think we really need to go this way to ensure proper connectivity, and maybe protected areas managers has a lot to do and a lot to say in this regard. But I don't know if you are already working in this line or just is something you have not started exploring with administration, or what would you need to go that way, or if you find it interesting, or if I am explaining clear enough myself that maybe I'm not able to.
You are absolutely. I think it's crucial to ensure there is connectivity, and we're not.
Yep.
I think this is a concern we all have as well, to avoid creating new silo or islands of protection where this is where nature is and the rest is not relevant. So I think making sure the connectivity, the different areas that have different functions from an ecological point of view are considered, and I guess Marta has something to add.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. Happy to talk to you in Spanish when we finish or whenever.
Yes.
Just to mention, and maybe I can add the link through the chat. We are working in a project in EUROPARC Spain and the Foundation Fungovel about connectivity. It is called ProConecta. I think is very clear also in English, something like this. So it's to work in this, how to integrate landscape conservation in a more integrated way. This is a project only in Spain, but I think at some point, if we could get some resources to translate some materials in English would be nice, because we are trying to contribute to the Spanish strategy for green infrastructure, restoration, and so on. But I think it's a lot of work to do still, because it is very challenging really to work with this approach of landscape planning, because at the end there are let's say separate boxes, and it's really hard to work also at this landscape scale. So this ProConnect project is trying to compile good experiences working with not only with protected areas administrations, but also with other sectors. At the end, is working in this under this approach of alliances, working with other policies, which is not easy, but we have to do it. Otherwise, we will fail in our goals.
Well, very good, Marta, and certainly from EUROPARC's perspective, the relationships between different types of stakeholders has always been recognised as being particularly valuable for the effective management of protected areas. You know, it isn't all about communities of protected area managers working in isolation. It's how they work together with other stakeholders that will make the difference for the quality of nature on their protected areas, their parks, etc. But absolutely, I think there's a need to, as challenging as it may be, to at least move towards larger connected landscape scale approaches, not only in terms of the connections and the ecological connections between different ecosystems, but also taking into account the restoration priorities, which are going to be quite ambitious in the coming 10 years as well. Thomas, our colleague from TESAF, who's also involved in the Life Edu project, has shared a link via the chat about a scientific paper, recent scientific work. The link's there, so you can have a look at that. Evaluating and expanding the European Union's protected area network toward potential post-2020 coverage targets. So, Thomas, I don't know if you want to say something, maybe just why you think this is an important piece of work.
Hi, Neil. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Thomas.
Yeah, no, this is maybe just an example of the attention that also the scientific world, the academic world has on this topic. And of course, there can be different set of alternatives in terms of possible solutions. And I totally agree with Marta regarding the aspect of landscape planning. So I think that the future challenge will be related more to, yes, landscape regional planners that need to focus on the connectivity of the existing Natura 2000 areas. And by increasing this, enhancing this, I think there is the potential to reach the area targets that are being set. So this is, of course, it's an interesting work that gives some possible alternative solutions. And yeah, because we were talking about this aspect, I think it could be interesting to have a look at it. Yes.
Very good. Thanks, Thomas. And you also made a point about the focus on restoration of degraded habitats. It's a seminar topic, or one of the main topics at the third Natura 2000 Alpine Seminar, which is happening now, you tell me.
Yes, this week. So it started today, this morning. We will go through up to Friday. And yes, one of the working groups is working on the topic of restoring habitats and habitats for species. So I think that I wanted to emphasize this aspect that is, I think, important for managers, because in the future maybe there will be still more attention in and more possibilities of co-funding maybe for actions regarding restoration.
I think that's absolutely right. I think there will be more attention and more funding targeted towards projects which, at least for the main, focus on restoration activities, because there is this big target for restoration.
Yes, interestingly, what came out also today, this morning, was that if we compare, the seminar is focused on the Alpine biogeographical region. And some of the speakers were comparing the area, for example, of Fennoscania, so the northern part of the Alpine biogeographical area, and the Alps, for example, and the Pyrenees. And there are major differences in terms, for example, of conservation status. So we still have strong bad and degrading conditions in both the areas, but something better in the Scandinavian area, for example, in terms of good conditions. So maybe, for example, restoration will focus, for example, in the Alpine, in the Alps and the Pyrenees, if we look to this geographical region.
Very good, very interesting. Thanks, Thomas. Does anybody else have any comments on that, on perhaps restoration particularly? Maybe, Federico, there's a comment about the relationship or collaboration between Reweld in Europe and EUROPARC.
Yes, I've seen. I think the collaboration at the moment is mainly within the European Habitat Forum, as the both organizations are member, and I think we know each other. I think Rewilding Europe is really focused on specific project of obviously rewilding or probably restoration. So there are some exchanges. I have to say this not really specific cooperation at the moment. But yeah.
No, but I mean, we've been in dialogue with
Reweld for long,
for years and years and years, you know. So, yeah, we just need to find maybe the right channel to reinforce that collaboration. But there's also the Large Carnivore Platform. Are they a member of that as well, Federico?
Okay, no, the Large Carnivore Platform, this is a different, again, networking and people and organizations bringing together. This is a different platform created by the European Commission and includes different stakeholders, and they're working all to ensure better coexistence between human and large carnivores. And this includes EUROPARC, but also European Landowner Organization, WWF, hunting organizations, reindeer herder organization, and so on. So I think it's really to create the dialogue and try to find synergies among quite a challenging topic as large carnivores.
Yeah, and it attracts quite a significant amount of attention from the European Commission in particular. Certainly within DG Environment, they're very sympathetic to the dialogue and the discussions that take place within the Large Carnivore Platform. Pertti has a comment as well about restoration of drained peatland for forestry, and saying that that's a massive issue in Finland at the moment. I don't know, Pertti, do you want to maybe add to that, or is that all you want to say? Or don't be shy. We're currently in discussion with.
Hello, can you hear me?
Very good, Pertti. Very good.
I'm not that shy, but in fact I don't have very much to add to this restoration. It's in Finland. It's focused on peatland because originally there was almost 30% of the land area was peatland in Finland, and almost half of that has been drained for forestry, and that has caused has got a huge impact on biodiversity and also on water ecosystems, and so this has been under discussion for I would say decades, and at the moment there is a high pressure for restoration of large areas of peatland. I think we are working now in something like 50,000 hectares. Or we have made a restoration of 50,000 hectares, and I think these existing objectives are about that size too. But what I have another question here about this strategy and the effectiveness of management. What is one of it's included in this strategy, and at the moment I'm working in northern Finland in Lapland in an Interreg project with Norwegian partners, and I know quite well the Norwegian, Finnish, and also Swedish management systems, and even we have a lot of common in our historical background in administration and so on, but still our management systems are quite different in all three countries. At the moment, Norwegians have a real co-governance system where they have local boards with other decision makers, with the local politicians included. In Finland, we have a state enterprise in management and governance of almost all protected areas, and in Sweden they have I would say a quite traditional model where local authorities are administrative authorities in protected areas, and I know that in Europe there are many models. Almost every country has a different model. Have we made a real evaluation of the effectiveness? I don't mean that we should find the best one, and of course everyone there are so much differences in environment and society that it's not possible, but this gives also material to find good practices and raise this effectiveness, I would say, in all of these systems. And do we have such tools and methods? Have we made within EUROPARC such an evaluation of different management and governance models?
Yes, that's a good question. Yes, I don't think we have, and it's not really on our responsibility to evaluate how the different governance models or how effective they can be. But surely we have been investigating and recently discussing also what could be key pillars of good governance, and how, or it's not just about governance, it's several elements to make sure we achieve management effectiveness, whatever the system is, in whatever. Then how you monitor the results, then may be challenging, more difficult. But for example, having a clear governance, a participatory approach, taking a listening approach, and cooperative, taking into account the different stakeholders that are in the area, whether this is managed by an agency or with a partnership in different governance model with directly stakeholders involved in boards or councils. Having good communication frameworks, having strategic plans, and having decision-making processes in place, clear objectives, both for conservation objectives and possibly management plans. I think all those can surely, there are others that come to mind, but I think there are a list of elements that should be in place to make sure we achieve good governance in an area, and improve the management of that area, like the capacity building, knowing the needs of your team, ensuring you have trainings for your team and good qualification for what you need to do. And then I think because from the scientific point of view, the managers know what they have to do, but there are other elements that need to be in place.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely right. I think, the Life Edu project is certainly, it's identified specific skills and competencies required for specific functions of effective nature management. And those types of common ingredients, irrespective of the management culture that can be substantially different between member states and even within member states. There are certain common features of effective management which can be promoted and can be learned and can benefit from training. But I think the point you raised, Pertti, is absolutely valid. You know, especially if you look at Natura 2000, the Commission have never taken a line where there is a legal obligation based on member states, but how to implement Natura 2000 has never been applied as a sort of blanket approach across all member states, precisely because I think, you know, the cultures and the nature of the practices, the management strategies, and structures that operate within the different member states would mean that there could never be a sort of one-size-fits-all approach. But it does make it a very interesting management challenge, especially when you're working across borders. You know, the need to understand and perhaps not reconcile, but at least find some compatibilities between what ostensibly are very, very different approaches, management approaches, and management structures, can in itself be really challenging, you know. But bravo that you have an Interreg project, and it's at least enabling you to have that discussion, that dialogue. And
there's a note also on the cross-border aspect, as you mentioned, on how we can, do you want to intervene? I'm not sure who's the Harry, please.
Maybe not.
Need to unmute.
Maybe not. But okay. Yeah.
So yes, just to say that in the biodiversity strategy, there's also an attention specifically to cross-border areas, and again the targets so far they are indicated at biogeographical level, not really at country level. So not expecting every country to achieve the 30% and the 10%, even if that would be really encouraged to have every country to contribute to achieve get as close as possible to the target. And the EUROPARC transboundary program is an example of a process that's helping to address and help protect areas at the border to better manage and try to find ways to have coherent approaches towards those areas. But still, yes, we are different administrations, not always easy to achieve.
Pertti makes exactly that point, Federico, as well, and takes the words out of our mouths. I think the Transboundary Parks Programme can be a very interesting enabling framework for that co-management to be discussed. It's a really practical framework to enable that sort of discussion to take place. So.
And again, there we have seen the importance of having first putting people next to each other and networking and discussing. The management is relatively easy. It's really putting the people together and agree processes and things, knowing each other.
I think one of the key ingredients in any sort of co-working relationship at whatever scale that applies is there a will to work together, to collaborate, despite all the challenges, despite all the potential complexities? If the will to work together is there, that's a massive step forward, you know. And if the sort of enabling frameworks can be applied to channel that will, then you can achieve a lot. So yeah, I think the will is critical in terms of collaboration and networking and forging co-management agendas. Anybody else? Oh, Sarah. Yeah. Sarah, you want to say something? Oh.
I'm sorry now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Sorry, because I am not very good with these online tools. I was asking you regarding question 4, following the last intervention. What about collaboration between protected areas managers and some responsible for sectoral policies? And I'm thinking about, for instance, agriculture. And I'm coming back to the, well, to a previous discussion about the importance of integrating conservation in other sectoral policies in a more effective way. And from this point of view, what would you need as managers of these protected areas to improve this collaboration and to better integrate your needs in these sectoral policies?
Okay, very good question, Sarah. Let's see what the workshop participants think. What types of support or training would help to achieve that level of integration between nature conservation and other sectors, for example, agriculture? I think that's the essence of the question, Sarah. Oh.
Shy audience.
Do you have any reflections on that?
And we can say we as EUROPARC are working close. We have been developing and raising our attention towards agriculture sector in recent years on the policy level. So making sure we have our say in the CAP reforms, and this has been also part of the discussion with the European Habitat Forum. And we are actively engaged in several of the groups also at European level and following from close the debate at the European Parliament. We have a commission, an internal commission looking at agriculture and protected areas. And I think what we have been looking at is to develop a tool that could help protected areas to develop strategies for sustainable agriculture in their areas, valuing both what is already happening at the moment and to better engage with stakeholders of the farming sector, which is probably one of the tricks how we can really improve the cooperation and engage with the farming sector, which is located within or at the border of protected areas. And this can be very different from country to country, where you might have very intensive farming nearby, or you're dealing with very small farmers. So there are a lot of different processes, but we were looking for a tool that could help to develop constructive processes at protected area level.
There's a significant number of initiatives and programs which EUROPARC has led, which is precisely about that approach, how to integrate protected area managers and their joint working, their cooperative working relationships with different sectors. So whether it be agriculture or whether it be sustainable tourism and sustainable businesses within tourist areas. So Sarah, you want to say something? Come back. Yeah.
Okay, now, yes, yes. I know you're working at European level, but I meant more like at a local level, for instance, with the local agricultural offices, that sometimes I can see very clearly the gap between the nature conservation needs and some possibilities with agriculture, and I sometimes miss more dialogue between the technicians at the local level. And I wonder whether this could be improved, and if you need or if you miss some kind of help in this sense, or what would you consider that would help you to improve this coordination? But I mean, I'm more at a local level.
Yeah, I could answer only at a European, but maybe I see Timea has.
Yeah, I see Timea.
Might have the answer for you.
Hi. So I think this strategy is going to be digested in very different ways from country to country, and implementation will be very much based on how the governance is in each country. And I think in order to have like a very fluent collaboration between different institutions, especially when the protected area is managed by a public institution, for example. I think it's very important to have coherency between all the legal aspects, laws, or any other documents that are describing our legal responsibilities in this area. Because sometimes what we see is that many of the conflicts are coming exactly from the legal aspects. So we are, for example, all parts are doing their job, but basically there isn't any coherency between the laws themselves. So I think this is the first, this could be a problem that is only maybe pointing legal aspects, not the collaboration between institutions and individuals themselves. This is just one point maybe that could help.
Very good, thanks Timea. And Timea's from Romania.
Yes.
So I think that intervention highlights the different sort of, as we were talking about earlier, the cultures and management cultures that exist within countries as well. And they in themselves can be challenging enough to manage. Just looking at the chat as well, there is another comment about the transboundary situation from Christian, who's from one of the Mediterranean islands, I think a Balearic island, and he's saying, yeah, the challenge there is how to retain the isolation of the islands rather than work across borders, how to work within borders and ensure the integrity of the island sites. And Marta, I think, has made a comment about trying to answer Sarah's question I guess what is needed at local level are stable working groups. Yeah. So agriculture officers, nature conservation officers working together, very practical associations. And I mentioned earlier this example in the Burren in Ireland, and that was born of a LIFE project originally many years ago. But that has gone on to become a permanent self-sustaining initiative on the basis of the effective co-working relationships which have been established between the National Parks and Wildlife of Ireland and the local conservators, the park managers, the approach they take, and the farming community, and indeed the wider community. They've managed to coexist and keep that original initiative. I think it's more than 25 years old, going, and it's often held up as a model of excellence. So definitely have a look at that as a very practical example of exactly the point that Marta's making as well. Daniel, you have a... Hello? Hi, Daniel. Did you want to speak? Or is your hand still up from previously and I've just seen it again? Okay, I guess so. Okay, what's the time now? Yep, we have 10 minutes to go, and so. But thank you very much for this discussion and the various points which have been made. I think they are to an extent all illustrative of the need for effective relationship management, whether that's been between authorities, institutions, stakeholders. That seems to be the critical factor in terms of the effectiveness of the management practices that can be established at different scales of operation and indeed for different objectives and purposes. And it's maybe building on some of the questions which Sarah has been asking. EUROPARC is currently redeveloping its 5-year strategy. So that will be from 2021 till 2026-ish. Federico's doing this. I don't know whether that's the deaf hand clap or...
No, it's just unclear. It has to be confirmed, and nobody has agreed how long the strategy will last.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Daniel can't open his microphone, so he does want to say something. Give me a second. But the question I'd like you to think about is in relation to question number 5. Please make some suggestions and tell us what you think EUROPARC could do to help you in these regards that we've been discussing. I can't unmute Daniel. Give us at least one answer. You can type it in the chat or you can be bold and tell us. If I can get Daniel to unmute, maybe he would want to say something. No, you all think EUROPARC's doing a fantastic job and there's nothing additional we should do?
I see Christian is saying, yeah, we're having hard time in reaching protected areas. And I see Xaba saying yes, but this is more about the biodiversity strategy in general, where the definitions are not 100% clear yet, and so it is hard to contribute to the discussion unless we have clear definitions of things.
Yeah. Marie's making a really good point about a project database to help colleagues across Europe make connections. Effectively, that function can, of course, be fulfilled by the app, the smartphone app, as well. So, and it's actually an idea that we have. We're currently in development for a potential future project application, sort of initiative which is Life to Connect. So that would not only life projects, but predominantly life projects and Interreg projects, and to sort of create a database, for want of a better word, where the various contacts and the resources can be shared. But we would do that in a more filtered way. There is an equivalent database, I think, within the LIFE programme. But as far as I know, that had always been fairly technical, or information was difficult to access. But that was quite some time ago. So this would, our idea is basically to try and create a network of projects where those resources and those people behind the projects can continue to network and share information, and to do that on a very informal basis. So nothing heavy, but a really practical, basis. So good.
Daniel saying communicating good practice in easy, understandable way. In short, I think that's the core of his message from before. And I think here also would encourage you to look at the EUROPARC website, where we have created a knowledge hub, and a lot of good practices are available. And if you have good practices from your side on different topics, please share them. So there's a tool to share experiences and case studies.
Yeah, very good. And Tabea is also saying perhaps a guideline for fresh organizations, I guess, younger organizations, or organizations which don't necessarily have a wealth of experience, to help them get started with ideas about effective management. And that's really interesting, because that's also another idea that is in this potential project, a kind of, we don't know what to call it yet, but it'll be like an induction pack for new starts within nature conservation organizations, whether that be NGOs, GOs, protected areas, Natura 2000 site management organizations. But we recognize that there is perhaps a demand and an interest in sharing resources which are available in some of the larger organizations, but would be very costly for some of the smaller organizations to replicate. So if it's good practice, it's good practice, and if they're willing to share it, it would be up to the organizations to decide whether they wanted to use it or apply it or adapt it or not. But this type of induction pack, I think, could be something which would go some way towards these guidelines that Tabea is referring to. And exactly, Marta's echoing what Federico said. Please do check out the EUROPARC website. There is a wealth of information on there, and not only to use the website as a sort of shop, so you go in and take what you need or want from it, but also it's a platform where you can share your experiences and ask questions as well. So you know, you can submit a case study, for example, which need not be a best practice case study. You know, if you're brave, it can also be a bad practice. This was a disaster case study and the reasons why. That can also be rich learning, rich grounds for learning as well. But yeah, in our experience, we tend not to see that type of case study being shared too often. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I seem to be clicking on my presentation. So very good. Oh, and Marie's added another point. Also, other training course opportunities would be fantastic from an international networking perspective. Totally agree, Marie. We're on the case. Mm-hmm. So here's hoping, and yeah, let's see. We're very hopeful, but you can never have any guarantees with project proposals and project ideas. But there is a project which we're currently working on, which would be exactly that. It would be a capacity building, practical capacity building program for particularly ecosystem managers or managers working in forest ecosystems and marine ecosystems. And we thought that was a rich mix. Within the Life Edu project now, for example, we know there's a huge demand from marine biologists, marine managers, because they are, without any disrespect, just the reality, several steps and years behind the management on the terrestrial sites and protected areas. So we thought that was an interesting combination. Very different worlds, but also in terms of their geographical coverage, marine and forests being two of the largest ecosystem types in Europe. So we're keen on that. And then another component of that would be the core competencies. So very practical courses about how to develop effective project management skills, you know. Often a lot of people within nature conservation organizations have a very strong academic background in terms of their ecological training, but they don't necessarily have an awful lot of, or there hasn't been an awful lot of investment in other skills, you know, such as how do I write a project proposal, or how do I create a budget, or, you know, and that's not to be patronizing, that's just a reality. So we sense that there's a demand and an interest and a need for those types of courses. And then the third pillar of the idea that we have just now would be to identify people who could become trainers in their own right. So we're kind of completing the circle. Marie, if you're interested, you can, and we're successful with this project, you can be one of our trainee trainers. So that would be something which we feel has an enormous potential to not only multiply the capacity building training which the trainers themselves would receive, but then to equip them with another layer of skills so that they can go back to their organization, their country, and replicate that type of learning experience for the benefit of their colleagues, the benefit of their area teams, the benefit of their wider organization. So these are fresh ideas that we're very, very keen to try and find a way to achieve them. So fingers crossed. And what's the time now? Oh,
It's
we're
time.
3 minutes over
It's the
time.
time.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you all hugely for your time and your inputs and your really good suggestions. I have a little announcement. This next slide is saying what's coming next within the online conference program. You will also have an opportunity tonight to meet with your colleagues, your peers. There's a social evening planned. So you can bring a drink, you can bring some food. Tamea and Marie, you'll know what this is like because we did one within the Life Edu project. So it's a very similar idea. So you can join, relax, have some fun, and participate in a quiz to which the winner will receive some fabulous prizes. So hope to see you all later at that. I think we've now got a little break.
We have a break, and you'll need to connect to a new account, to a new link that you find on the website.
Exactly.
So here, there'll be some news here displayed for a few minutes more, and then please.
Exactly.
Thank you again, all.
Yep. So thank you all very, very much, and take care and enjoy the rest of the conference. Great to see you. Bye-bye.